Welcome to Jazz Congress 2021. We're really excited to have you with us today. My name is Domingo Cabrera, and I am the house manager at Jazz and Lincoln Center's Frederick P. Rose Hall, and your host for this panel. This session is titled Live Streaming Your Virtual Performance, and will be moderated by Yunie Mojica and Raynel Frazier. Both Yunie and Raynel have been working for Jazz and Lincoln Center for several years, both having musical backgrounds as jazz musicians with degrees from the Jackie McLean Institute and the Hart School of Music. Raynel Frazier is programming manager of concerts and touring and has extensive experience in booking, programming, and touring. She has also ventured into the realm of live streaming during the pandemic through both series Jazz from Home and Live from Dizzy. Yunie Mojica is our associate for the concert and touring department and has experience in concert production, education, and touring. In addition to the live streaming series produced by Jazz and Lincoln Center, Jazz from Home, Live from Dizzy, and A Closer Listen. Before we begin, we want to remind you to please refrain from recording any portion of this session, take screenshots, or post any section of these classes on social media. If you'd like to ask our panelists a question, you may do so in the chat. You can find the chat window by hovering over the window of the stream and by clicking the text bubble icon. The chat window will appear so you can post your questions there, and when it comes time to the Q&A, we'll try to get to as many as we can. Now make yourself comfortable and be prepared to be inspired. Let's welcome Yunie and Raynel. Welcome, ladies.
Hello, everybody out there. Thank you all so much for joining us for Jazz Congress. Domingo, thank you for that great introduction. My name is Raynel Frazier, and we're going to be talking about live streams tonight. So very excited for this panel. I'm joined by my co-moderator, friend, and colleague, Ms. Yunie Mojica.
Hey everyone, so happy to be here today. We have such a great group of panelists, and we'd like to quickly introduce them, who we have here to discuss the experience of live streaming your virtual concerts. First, we have guitarist and band leader, educator Dan Wilson, who has shared the stage with jazz luminaries such as Russell Malone, Les McCann, Renee Marie, Joey DeFrancesco, and Christian McBride. And Dan has also recently released his own album, Vessels of Wood and Earth, whose album release was live streamed and cross-posted by Jazz Lincoln Center as well. So Dan, why don't you say hello?
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Hopefully you can hear me. Yeah, I'm Dan. Really happy to be a part of this Jazz Congress. Been doing live streaming ever since I consulted with my friend and musical cohort, Emmett Cohen, and he was generous enough to share some of his tips with me, and so I started my own during the pandemic with my organ trio, and we did it for about 8 or 9 months, and it's a great experience.
Beautiful. Speaking of Emmett, also joining us today is pianist Emmett Cohen, who created Live from Emmett's Place, a weekly live stream that received millions of internet views worldwide. For those of you who do not know Emmett Cohen is an internationally acclaimed jazz pianist, band leader, educator, and composer, and acclaimed with awards such as the 2019 American Pianist Award, and has performed, recorded, and collaborated with musicians such as Ron Carter, Benny Golson, Jimmy Cobb, Christian McBride, and Kurt Elling, to name just a few. So both Dan and Emmett, thank you for joining us. Emmett, you want to say hello?
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to be here. I think last time we were in person, and we were talking about how to get your band on the road, and now we're talking about how to get your band on the road from home. Which is kind of similar concept, but I always like to think of it as creatively as possible. And I do view my creativity beyond just being a pianist and kind of try to let it permeate other areas of my life. And one of those things is when the lockdown shut down, everything was shut down. There was like this month that all the gigs got canceled. We were like, oh, this is canceled. Oh, this is canceled. Oh, this is canceled. And then it was like, they reached a threshold. We're like, okay, everything's canceled. What are we going to do? And actually, there's this promoter. His name is Derek Kwan. He used to work at Jazz Lincoln Center. Tootie Heath calls him Don Kwan, and he's out in Kansas. We're supposed to be at the Center in Kansas on this particular Monday, which was March 23rd, 2020. And he called me up and he said, hey man, like, you know, some people are doing live streams and stuff. We'll pay you the full fee for this gig that you were supposed to be at if you do this live stream. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. Just do something and make it, you know, good for the world. You know, just put some good vibe. People need it so much. And we did it. And it was just like the iPhone set up, like leaning against books on the table. And you know, people were so grateful. And I listened back to that one. It sounds like a Game Boy, like the 8-bit. But people were like so grateful for the community aspect of it, for somewhere to go and just be like, wow, okay, we're all watching this together, even though we're not here. And I saw right away like the power in that. And so we said, well, should we do it again tomorrow? Maybe that's too soon. So we did it the next week. And we did about 20 weeks, just the trio. I was quarantining with Russell Hall and Kyle Poole in Harlem. We had just gotten off the road and we're a family. So we did that. And then now it's been 56 weeks that we've done it. And after the 20 weeks, we started getting different special guests. Dan was there 2 weeks ago, came in from Akron and played with us, and Cyril May. This week we had Joe Lovano come and play. So it's been this amazing opportunity to kind of invite some of the masters to come play with us and also play with our peers, and then also kind of to showcase some of the younger talent in New York City. And it's been this cool programming thing. There's also a lot of technical aspects, and I could talk forever, but Peter's gonna start playing my exit music under me. So.
Yo, Emmett. Hey, Emmett. I'd also like to add that you know, the Emmett's place has become sort of like a like sacred ground. But for those of you who don't know, he lives on the 5th floor. So any guitarists, bring your amp and everything. Get ready for that.
Probably the craziest load-in that we had to do is Warren Wolf's vibes. We were like, yeah, man, we'll help you. And like we turn around, he's already got the vibes. He's the strongest man in jazz. Warren dieseled the entire vibraphone up 2 times up and down the stairs, and I was like, yeah. Yeah. So
I want to get a chance to I want to get a chance to bring in our other panelists in here as well to add to this conversation. Joining us from Open Studio are 2 amazing people. I'm going to start by introducing Rachel. Rachel Morgan is the operations manager at Open Studio, where she manages artist relations, social media marketing, customer service, and all the day-to-day operations. Since the start of this pandemic and the lockdown, she's also helped to develop and work on their live stream concerts, and she has coordinated over 62 weeks of successful events. So Rachel, say hello to our audience here.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. Yeah, just like Emmett said, the community aspect of live streaming consistently has been such a driving force behind all of the live streams we've done at Open Studio. Thinking back to the very beginning of the pandemic, we were actually streaming like 7 days a week, every single day, with lots of different kinds of content. So yeah, the community aspect was really important for our members. And yeah, happy to talk more about live streaming today.
Yes, so happy to join. And to close out and to round out this panel is none other than Peter Martin. Peter Martin is an acclaimed jazz pianist. He's an entrepreneur and educator, and he is the founder of Open Studio, which is pioneering the field of jazz education online. They've built a worldwide community of members of over 140 plus countries. In lieu of touring in this time, they've made it normal just to live stream and do their performances virtually. Peter Martin does solo piano concerts every Friday evening online. So this is our wonderful panel. We're just so excited that you guys are all here to join us. You all have a breadth of experience in such a short amount of time figuring this all out. So welcome. Thank you all for being here.
Yeah, great to be here. And I see that you introduced us, well, by age. So that worked out good. And going last, I see what's happening here. But no, it's great to be here with all of you and, talk about how we all, as a community, the jazz community, the music community, the educational community, all these different kind of vectors that we came to this, how we've dealt with this. I know, both Emmett and Dan, they're live performances and live streaming have been among a small group of folks that I've been able to keep up with and watch when I have time, that are super inspiring and have given me great ideas, and just another kind of prism to look at how we can present music. I mean, it's one thing, and I'm sure we'll get into this, talking about what it's like to play for no audience, or what it's like to play in a room by yourself when you're used to playing with people, but also what it's like from the other side. And I know, in watching Dan and Emmett's performance, it's been seeing them live and having played with them as well, being able to see it on the other side of the screen, and what that feels like and what you can get out of it and how that's different has been really integral to the process.
Yes, wow. Thank you so much, Peter. So I think our first question for today, and I think I'm gonna pose this question to start with you, Peter, and then everyone can kind of chime in, is what is your live stream setup and how has it evolved to where we are now?
Well, it's it's similar to what Emmett said with the phone. Like, that's what it started out with the first week. It was like the phone set up at my house. And then, we had a studio here. We were actually doing some live streaming here at Open Studio. We're in St. Louis, over the last couple of years, mainly sort of experimenting with it, but it wasn't something we were putting a lot of, time and attention and research into, although we had a few sort of successful things. But we're mostly kind of recording studio, but we do a lot of video production of courses and that type of thing. So after that kind of first week, I realized, I was like, wow, well, we've got a lot of the elements that we need to be able to do this. And so we kind of got together, and everybody, was sort of separate, but everybody within the company sort of put their different ideas together. It's like, what do we need to do to sort of fill in? And the main thing we tried to do was just do something consistent. So we had like the educational things, and I set up like a little thing in my basement with a keyboard, and Adam Manis, our creative director, great jazz pianist as well, started setting up a little studio at his house, because this is that time when no one wanted to go, everything was shut down. So I would come in here by myself and do things from here, but we were missing all these little pieces of equipment. And I'm sure, as other folks realized, that was a time when like every musician and church around the world was trying to order the same equipment and cable, and you couldn't find different things. So I was just down here like looking around at all this stuff that I usually had people that worked for us that would hook everything up, and I just come in and play or record a course. All of a sudden I'm down there by myself, and Rachel's like texting me, she's like, you said you're going live at this time, like, let's get it together, let's do it. And so it was a real learning opportunity for me. I'm watching YouTubers and geeking out on them about how to live stream and stuff, and just trying to figure it out. And it was really a lot of mistakes and just screwing it up, and then you learn. But whatever that time you're going to go live, something's going to happen. So it started out super just sort of a raw mix of stuff. But now, one thing I think about is, and we can certainly talk about equipment and setup and all that. One thing I've learned is, like, as much as you can control on the side of the performance or the performer and what you're putting out there, what we don't have control is how people are consuming it. We don't have much control. I used to think we didn't have any. So in other words, you can put out the perfect 4K stream and have the bandwidth to be able to push it up to YouTube or to Facebook, where there's no drop frames and the audio is great, surround sound. You can do all that. But if somebody's watching it on their phone through a crappy little speaker, it's going to be what it is, And so one thing that we kind of pivoted towards was doing more things that would hopefully give folks an opportunity to get off of their phones and off of their laptops, and maybe even onto their TV screens. So I was always experimenting, like watching Emmett's, Monday night show in different situations. And once we really upgraded like our TV, like got it hooked in with some better speakers and stuff. And as he was upgrading his, what he was pushing up, it really got to the point where it was like, wow, you can hear everything, you can see stuff. And, it's a much different experience than watching it on your laptop. And so a lot of the things also, like with Zoom fatigue, because our company we have 10 employees, and we're already a distributed company. Everybody's remote. Half the company was remote before the pandemic. Now, of course, everybody is. So like we're Zoom meetings, and, by the time it gets to the evenings, like no one wants to log into Zoom to watch a jazz show. It just doesn't feel. But if you can sit back in your living room with some premium sound and watch some great musicians play, it's a real game changer. So we've just sort of spent a lot of kind of thought, and there's only so much you can do. You can't force people to consume it a certain way. But like we started to push almost all of our real performance type things that aren't educational necessarily, just straight performance, only to YouTube, because we're finding that they're treating it with a higher quality level than Facebook and that Zoom. They're not throttling the music as much. And it seems to be the easiest platform for people to be able to consume it away from their laptop, on their television with the Roku. And, we put out little instructions. I don't know if people are watching them, but just some different alternatives to how you're going to watch it.
That's a really good point, and it kind of segues into one of the things that we were talking about or thinking about as we were planning this panel, is that like, what are the streaming services that work best? I know I've watched all of your streams before. I've seen YouTube, I've seen Facebook, I've seen clips on Instagram. I know some artists, I think Patrick Bartley in particular, uses Twitch very often. What are the platforms that have worked for you during this time, and why? Or do you use them all? Like, what do you guys do?
I think for me, Facebook has been the most consistent. Instagram, there was always a glitch. That was killing me. I found the production team that I partnered with, the two local guys out of Akron, Ohio, called Live at AV Club, and at one point we found a way to stream on Instagram with labels and everything, but there's always a glitch. Some type of audio or video would cut out for some reason. But I've always found that Facebook or YouTube, especially YouTube, was the most consistent. But as far as streaming to both, sometimes we run into glitches with that. Emmett, I don't know if you had that problem, because your Facebook and YouTube seem to be pretty flawless at this point.
Yeah, Instagram is not set up as really a live platform. Like, Instagram's like scroll. Yeah. But they have a live feature, but you can only be on there for about an hour before they cut it off, I think. So we would try to, do some Instagram live and kind of set up the phone, but it doesn't interact with any of the other interfaces that we use for streaming. So I used a multi-stream software called Caster.io, CASTR.io, and from there you could split the stream from YouTube and Facebook like simultaneously. And so that was like a cool tool. I think it cost $15 a month to be a member of that, and it's never failed me one time in all of this. Whatever. And I think there are many other ones that are out there. It's just the one I picked and went with and tried. It was just complete trial and error every single week. And so once we're on Facebook, then I think Facebook is the most powerful tool for marketing, because they have this technology called cross-posting. And so what Peter's like, how do you get this? How do you put out the most awesome stream in the world, but how do you get anyone to consume it? And so it's like marketing is just as important as putting out the stream, really. So Facebook has the most marketing capabilities. So we would partner with, actually emailed every single jazz club that I'd ever played in the world and festival, and said, hey, we got this free show content, like, you can license it for free, go on your page, do interaction with your fans. It'll have, be something to bring them to your page. It will help us and do something cool for the world too. And there were a lot of places, Dazzle in Denver, and Cliff Bells in Detroit, and Jazz Alley in DC or Seattle, Blues Alley, like all these places would including Dizzy's, put our stream on their thing. And I think that, like, so it was going from OBS originally. We now use ATEM Switcher. Now that I have a cameraman, his name's Alex Whites. And he is kind of got 5 cameras and sets them up and then runs that through. And then I run from my computer. We put that to Caster, and then from Caster to YouTube and Facebook. And YouTube has a better quality of sound and picture, but Facebook has kind of the marketing virility reach in a certain way. And so we did that and just experimented around and I have a little soundboard that would go into the computer and kept that external. We tried to use Logic a couple times, and shut down and crashed and ruined a couple weeks. So I decided to keep it outside the computer. So the only thing the computer is doing is streaming.
Mm.
Another thing is the internet. Verizon came out with this internet that was 100 times faster than anything that we had seen previous. So I think it had existed, but maybe not for residential homes. They made it available in the building, and somewhere in like week 14, 15, 16, we got that internet, and we never had another glitch. Like it never skipped.
Wow.
It never turned into like a Claude Monet painting ever again. Like it never hiccuped. And so that internet is what we call unstoppable. So that Verizon has that if you do the speed test, it's like 100 times faster than what you're used to on the normal thing. So that was another important key factor. But I think YouTube and Facebook are the spots.
Right. I think we've all collectively found out that the biggest piece of the live streaming is your internet connection.
Never stream over Wi-Fi. That's like 101.
Yeah.
Hardwire all the way. Well, so while we're on the subject of your live streams, Emmett, we actually have a clip of what you're experiencing Emmett's Place is like. So Domingo, I'm wondering if you can pull that up for us. Yeah, and for those of you who wanted to know, that's Joe Saylor on the drums, Patrick Bartley on the alto saxophone, Bruce Harris on trumpet, Russell Hall on the bass, and Emmett Cohen on piano.
So, and that was done in April, right? So you had some time. You have I see the multiple camera angles there.
Yeah, that's super recent, last month.
Yeah,
and that's actually another thing that YouTube clip was not from the stream itself, but from like something that we cut up from the stream and then posted on YouTube. So I've noticed that like that consistent content on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, even algorithm favors consistent content. So one thing that the streams are great for is that they give you this entire performance for you to then peruse and pick the best, 3 tunes or something. So we pick 3 tunes every week now and post them throughout the week. And so then it gets extra kind of juice and views. And some people, maybe they didn't have time to watch the stream, but you can kind of put the best tune or your favorite tune in front of them. And that one right there, maybe the stream got, 50,000 views or something like that between Facebook and YouTube. And then that additional clip already has 80,000 views on it. So it's just getting in front of more people who then may find out about it, talk about marketing, and then, go back and then check out the stream. So that's another post.
Dan, I know that it's clear that Emmett has some support, and Peter and Rachel, they have a whole system set in place. Dan, I wanted to give you the floor for a second to kind of speak on what your experiences has been live streaming from your end, and tech-wise, and also even support-wise as well.
Well, I kind of first started out just by doing these kind of online, these web classes. So I do them via Facebook. So what I do is create a private group and then advertise a class on my website and have people sign up through there and, by admission and I would just add them like that. And at first it kind of started off kind of janky, just with my regular computer webcam, and then I started partnering with this audio and video guy, and then when the pandemic hit, it was like, oh wait, I'm gonna have to pivot. So I thankfully Emmett was really forthcoming with some of his techniques. I was like, hey man, how are you doing this? And he told me, and so I just kind of tweaked it to my own way, and just I called my the guys that play in my organ trio, and they were like, yeah, we're down to do it. And it was just nice to be playing consistently, and we're still figuring out we were still figuring out a lot of the tech issues, but I think we got it down to a science, and that opened up a lot of opportunities for us to reach out to different clubs and different venues. And the first stream we did the first tune live on Facebook Live, and then we did the rest of the concert via my website. I have my website is through Wix, so you can live stream through there. So I was like, we ain't playing for free, but but eventually Pittsburgh International Jazz Festival reached out to us, and they said, like, if you guys want to do an every week thing, then we'll sponsor that. And we were like, yes. Let me, there was nothing on the schedule, so that helped us out tremendously. And ever since then, we've been doing it in different types of settings. Like sometimes a club will reach out to us, or some organization will reach out to us and say, can you do a live stream for us? I'm like, yeah, we got the capability here. So, we've kind of got it down to a science by now. And I think after the pandemic, I'm always going to do some type of online musical experience. I've been watching Peter's YouTube channel, and there was I love the educational element, and that's something I want to explore a lot more. There was one particular lesson on Kenny Kirkland's music, and Emmett knows that how obsessed I am with Kenny Kirkland. And I just gained so much information from that lesson that I wanted to. I'll probably like, even as things are opening back up, I'll probably do something similar to that. Just keep the educational element going.
It sounds like there's like a theme emerging coming out as community, and community is so important to us all. But in this time during the pandemic, I know for myself, I've had moments where I'm just feeling, especially in the beginning, super lonely, live alone, like no one is there, what's going on? And this virtual space during this time really had a chance for us to work together. Dan, you mentioned calling Emmett up, you guys all checking out each other's stuff. I know that I had the pleasure of working with all of you guys during this time, and you guys made it extremely easy to stream these concerts. So being connected to one another virtually, I think the live streams were really helpful in that, and helping us feel like we're still a part of this jazz community, and then of course, I'm sure the audience too, staying connected to your audience. So I wanted to kind of pivot and go to Rachel and just kind of get a sense. I know you cover the social media and you really work on communications and marketing and those things. What are some of the techniques you use to really push the live stream? Because as Peter said before, you can put something up, but if nobody sees it, like we want people to view it and we want it to have the impact virtually. So what are some of the things that you guys do over at Open Studio?
Sure. So one of our most important things, since we've had so many different kinds of live streams going on throughout the pandemic, and we started so many new things, we developed a live stream calendar. And that's just a link that's available on our website so people can see, what's today, what's happening today, and, just peruse all of our live streams, even see previous ones. And we built that calendar through Talkify, which is an online calendar builder, which is really cool. You can like customize it fully and, make it look really nice and make it work for you. So that's been a really invaluable tool. We also have an email list, like we'll email out all of our different events every week. We do a live newsletter each week. Lots of social media posting about every single event. And then every time we have a guest artist come in to do a live stream with us, we ask them to share it and to just, spread the word to their audience and their cohort. And all of those things are typically pretty successful for us. We have also got a really engaged Facebook group, and just our members are just so engaged with everything that we've been putting out. So they help share and they talk about our events and get in the chat, and are super active. So all of those things together have really helped us to build our audience throughout this whole thing.
Wow, that's so great. Before we continue on, I want to encourage our audience to ask questions in the chat, and you could do so by hovering over the chat bubble in the right-hand corner of your screen. And we encourage you to ask any questions that you have for our panelists, and we'll try and get to that as we move through.
I was going to throw one thing in. I heard all three of the other panelists kind of mention some ways that might be helpful for folks, especially if you're coming here thinking, well, I want to start live streaming, but I'm overwhelmed. It's like, what platform do I go on? What camera do I get? There's a lot of potential for, sort of decision fatigue and being paralyzed. But I think what you heard Dan and Emmett both say a variation on is they just started. And it's the same with myself. It's like, I think that there was a thing inside of us in terms of just playing music because we're so used to doing it. So it's like, well, we can't go out. So what can we do? How can we? It wasn't like a grand master plan to, on the live stream. It was more about how do we continue to play music. But in terms of like just start doing things, because you got to make some mistakes so that you can figure out what works. You got to stream on Wi-Fi. So you realize, it's just like when you're a little kid and you touch your mom's cooking or your dad's cooking, you touch they're like, don't touch it, it's hot. Until you touch it, you don't know what hot means. What are they talking about? Hot. Now it hurts. So each of these different things, and I think one of them mentioned something that was very important is like when I think Emmett, you said you found a service that hasn't failed you. Like, that's why you can't say sometimes we can recommend different services and you've already heard some really good ones, but you have to find one that works for your workflow so that you can be thinking about music. Because if you're worried about, like, a lot of these services promises, to do all these different things and like we can stream to multiple places and all that. And that's great if it works for you. And that when you look away, it's going to be working. Cause I spent going on 40 weeks out of these 60 or so totally by myself doing streams. My daughter was here sometimes doing switching for me because she was in my same household, but I was like scared up and I'm like, I'm not trying to get COVID over doing a live stream. So I'm in here by myself. I got robotic sliders, but it's like, I wanted a system where once I press go, and typically the way we would do it is Rachel or somebody else, but almost always Rachel would be producing it remotely because everyone's always like, you have cameramen in there, and I was like, no, there's nobody in there. Rachel would be watching, but that's more about like moderating the chat and making sure. But basically, I'd have my phone. I'm like, don't text me unless something's not, like, if I'm playing and there's no sound, text me. Otherwise, no news is good news. But like, you have to find some system that works for you so that you can be thinking about music, because it's hard enough. Like, we don't have the energy of the audience. We've had to adjust to that. Like, you're playing, having to imagine people out there. And as you do it and you're consistent and just get started, you start to get comments and you get emails and you get social media things. Oh my God, this means so much. So then you can hold on to that and use that as you're playing, knowing people are out there. But it's not like a regular gig where you can, you start playing and you're playing something that's not great. You can feel people kind of moaning. You're like, oh, let me step it up now. This is like, it's entirely self-starting. So if you're having to worry about anything technical at that point, it's going to be hard. And then the other thing that was mentioned about platforms, I would just say, something I think that Dan and Emmett have done when we talk about these different platforms really well is leveraged the platform for what it works well for. So you have to think about it. It would be for anybody out there that's thinking about doing this. Don't necessarily say, well, what's the best platform, Facebook or Instagram or Twitch? It depends on what you're doing. If you're doing gaming, obviously that's probably Twitch or whatever. But like Dan was saying, he had some problems with Instagram Live. But what I've seen him do great on Instagram in these little videos, of like demoing something, and then maybe one of his cute little kids runs in the background or something. But it's like super like appropriate for that platform and really engaging, and would get people interested in then in going in a deeper dive. That might be to go to his website or to his Facebook Live. So it's like he's using that platform for what it works well. Emmett mentioning about Facebook. Facebook is the most powerful algorithmic social media network, love it or hate it, that's ever been created. So things to go viral, to be shared is fantastic. YouTube, the quality is better. So if you're going for really good quality, it's great, but it's not a great social network because there's no easy way to share. I mean, you can share a YouTube video, but you have to go to Facebook or to Twitter or whatever. So it's like using these different things, but recognizing what the platform offers and then leveraging what it is that you want to get out of it. That's kind of the way to go. But mainly just get started. Start putting stuff out there into the world. Don't be afraid. I mean, Rachel knows we had moments where it was just like, we're like, wow, are we really out there just like doing it like this and it's falling apart? But then that next time it gets a little bit better. And people are very forgiving, especially when it's free. And almost actually everything we've done live performance, we've never actually charged. We have like virtual tickets that are optional, but we've never charged for anything. And our experience has been, there's an amazing generosity of people like paying above and beyond. And we always have a thing like, it's not even donate. It's just like whatever you think this is worth, starting at $1, whatever. And every week I'm very humbled by people, like what they pay to say, like, cause I say, I want it to be free for everybody. Some people can't afford it, others. And so people have really stepped up in the sponsorships and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I had a thing. I stopped calling it a virtual tip jar, and I started. I called it a digital collection plate. So I'd have my organist play some talk music, and it was just like a way to, because I can't be serious the entire time, So like I had to do that, but like Emmett had like his own fan club. We just played a gig in Richfield, Connecticut with McBride, and these people were there at like 2 p.m. The concert was like at like 8. They're like, oh, there's Dan Wilson. I'm like, do I know you? That was just wild for us to see, and also we have kind of the pandemic to credit for this, just like the access that you get to these masters of the music, because they're at the crib too. They're just sitting around. So like normally some of them might be like run along kid, but they're it's really cool to see their humanity and just to hear their stories because most of them have lived 3 or 4 lifetimes. I just watched one on Peter's channel with Ron Carter. And just to hear him, did he reach out to you?
Yes, he did. Rachel, you could tell the story about that because we didn't actually believe that. I thought somebody was pranking us.
Yeah, so someone just reached out to us in our customer service. They sent us an email and they were just like, Ron Carter saw your recent You'll Hear It podcast video and would like to speak with you. And we were like, oh no. So I went ahead and like scheduled the meeting. They talked and everything turned out fine. And so Ron decided he wanted to be on the podcast, and we were like, wow, we can't even believe it. And so as soon as, well, actually we had him scheduled to start at like 2:00, and I was like, let me just hop in the Zoom and just like make sure everything's good. And it was like 20 minutes early, and he was there.
Of course.
So I had to, like, entertain him for 20 minutes while
I love it.
had to like figure out their technology. But it was a good time. I got like a one-on-one conversation with Ron Carter, which is like, who gets that? All because of the pandemic. So it was awesome.
There's those silver linings in all of this, like different new connections, being more directly connected with some of your audience, the community as well. And these live streams are kind of opening that door in a way. Some of you guys have already kind of touched on this. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into the idea of fundraising, compensation, and payment through live streams. I know each of you have your own kind of model. Dan, you talked about the collection plate. There's subscription models. There's
hold up, I'm writing that one down. I like that.
We all writing that one down.
And then when you get the organ, the organ sound.
Yep. But yeah, can you guys, I kind of I want everyone to touch on this and kind of share how you approach it, because I think it's important, because a lot of times we get shy, maybe sometimes asking for money. And in this time we've had, you know, you're used to getting paid. You guys come to Dizzy's, we'll pay you. And then you do what you do with the audience. And so now it's kind of created different situations where you're asking, sometimes openly, indirectly, hey, can you support me financially? So yeah, talk about how you guys navigated that, your feeling towards it, and what's worked and what didn't work. Whoever wants to start first can kind of dive into that one.
I'll go. Well, like Peter said, I think the most important thing in what we were trying, I think we're all kind of aligned on how we were thinking about things. And the most important thing was like, man, people are struggling right now. Like there's not everyone can pay $10 or $20 to see this thing. Like we should really keep it open and free for people that need this, you know, not just people that like can afford this high ticket price, because that's one of the main problems that we face all the time, is that it's expensive to go to, you know, to a club and have dinner and drinks and see a show. And it drives people out of the music a lot of times. So it's like, okay, there's that. And there's also like, and then if we keep it free and open, then more chance of building new fans, a new audience. So that's actually, you know, especially if someone like 30 years old, that's more valuable than a $20 ticket price. Someone discovering you and saying, I'm going to come every time you come to Minneapolis, I'm going to come to the gig. And that's, you know, that's like for the next 30, 40 years. That's true value. So to get in front of these people, I think is one of the, you know, they always say exposure, you know, it's true, you know, exposure is valuable. But in terms of like actual money, there were 3 different models that we used to do it. One is just you know, donation at the end of the gig. I have someone moderating the streams and saying, hey, if you like the music, you can donate here, blah blah blah. And so that's, people have been super generous with the donations, and even now, even week 56, you know, still, you know, a couple grand can come in per show, which is really inspiring that people wanted to continue this much that they're doing that. So, you know, I always put the Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Zelle. You know, I always put the Bitcoin, you know, which is, you know, kind of like a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, but people have sent it. And everyone has a different way. You know, if you just put Venmo and PayPal and someone's used to Zelle, that might discourage them. So you want to have all the options there. There's also a donate thing. Some people couldn't figure any of those out, so we did a donate thing on my website. There's like a button that they can go and click, and a lot of people contribute on that each week. And so that's one of the models, is donation. At the end of the stream, I leave up like a tip screen for 5 minutes or so that has all the information there. And I even have one that says, if you want to email and send a check, you wouldn't imagine how many people do that. Wow. You know, they'll write me and say like, what's the address or something? And I'm like, am I going to be stalked, or they can send me a check? But
both.
Yeah, both. Yeah, Peter knows. And so there's that. Then the second model, when things started to open up a little bit in the fall, we saw the kind of donations go down a little bit. So I said, okay, in order to keep this going and like pay everyone what they're worth, we maybe take some sponsorships. So, you know, it takes $2,000 to run the stream and pay everyone what they're worth before I even make anything. So I take sponsorships, mostly individuals. So I have a pretty strong mailing list, which is, I think, one of the things that I would have touched upon in the last thing where we were talking about social media and how do you let people know. I write a mailing list every single Monday morning since the onset of the pandemic. I used to do it once a month, and now I do it once a week. And I just talk about some thoughts about music or jazz or life or something I'm reading or my yoga practice or anything. And kind of just tie it into who the guest is going to be tonight, and kind of just like sell it a little bit. And I get the most engagement out of anywhere on the mailing list. And people, you know, people really kind of interact with the emails in a different way than they do with Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or any of that stuff. So I do that, and it's just for the newsletter people. And I think now there's almost 9,000 people on the email list. So that's like the bread and butter, and people from there, you know, read that and they're like, oh, you need sponsorship for June 21st. Okay. You know, and I say, you know, if you're interested, you know, just write me. And so they write me and I give them all the details, the spiel. And so we've been since January, and we've had every show sponsored. And sometimes people want like a specific artist or something they want to, input or a shout out to their grandmother for birthday or something like that. So there's a lot of things that you can do for people to make it worth it. Even Open Studio, Rachel reached out to me and Peter reached out to me. They said, hey, we want to sponsor one of your shows, which is super, super amazing. To hear from them and that they want to contribute and to find a way to work together, and then next time Rachel was like, okay, we want the logo on the opening screen, and we want the link in the thing, and what you put in the newsletter, and that's the marketing, because those are the people that will also tune into what they're doing. And so I love that. It helps us do what we do, and it also helps to connect everybody. So that's awesome as well. And then a third thing was that I started kind of a Patreon model subscriber kind of membership thing, and call it Emmett Cohen exclusive. It's always an idea I had in the back of my mind that I wanted to do, but it never was able to kind of come to fruition while I was on the road and doing so many crazy things. So we started that, and then during every stream, I would say, if you want to, provide ongoing support for these things, helps us do a whole number of things, helps with tour support, helps with education. We can go and do some master classes if we don't have the right budget for it, and just a pool of fun to just do dope things, basically. Like if you trust me, and so that we have hundreds of members on there, and there's 3 different tiers, and so that's like an annual ongoing thing to kind of supplement everything we do year round. And so those 3 things kind of work together and help us, kind of make a whole economy out of it. I get the piano tuned every week, and there's a video guy, and there's the sound guy. We buy dinner for everyone after the gig, and the house is a disaster. Pad Thai, and it's not a jazz recording session unless you eat Thai food. Peter knows. Just Thai food at every recording session. There's like Pad Thai noodles under the couch and stuff. So I have the apartment cleaned and everything like that. So it's just like it's like a crazy economy that goes into doing this, and like a whole payroll every single week. But it's something that's so necessary for the world, and it like drives me, knowing that all these people are benefiting from it. It makes me work harder every day.
Something you said about
Pad Thai.
No, man. about Peter and Rachel reaching out to you. I like the type of network that's that's being formed amongst musicians. Kind of separate from festivals and venues. And it kind of gives us an element of control that we might not have otherwise. Because we've sort of lost that with streaming services. We've kind of lost control of getting paid that way. Yeah. If you look at some of the breakdown, from Spotify, all the streaming services, it's like per play is like less than a penny. So our main bread and butter is is touring, and and playing the venues, and but this kind of gives us an element of control over our art, or over our own product. So I definitely like to see more of that.
Yeah, if I could just jump in here in regards to the overall financing. Basically everything Emmett said, we also do. But in addition to that, what's been really successful with us, we offer virtual tickets for our live performances. So Peter Martin's every Friday night Shelter in Place concerts, and then whenever we do Romero Lubambo live or whatever, we offer virtual tickets, and we always make it so that 20% of any income we get from virtual ticket sales go to a different nonprofit every week. And that has been awesome, not only for those nonprofit organizations that we're able to help, like over 50 different organizations, but we've been able to donate well over $10,000 to different nonprofit organizations, which our members love, and they love to then contribute to those different organizations, and they feel like their ticket is not only helping our artists, but also helping nonprofit organizations that could really use it. So that's been really integral with us too, because it makes us feel so much better, not only about the live stream, but also about just being able to give back in general.
That's so beautiful. Like in a time where it could be so me, the generosity that I'm hearing is really inspiring. is really inspiring. Peter, you're about to say something, right?
Well, no, I was just thank you for highlighting that, because that's been one of the just proudest moments for us throughout this for Open Studios, the nonprofits we've partnered with, and then also starting to do sponsorships like yours, Emmett and Dan. We should talk, because if you're interested, we're looking to support these kinds of things, because that's really what our community. It's all the same community, and you know, we had in building up Open Studio over the last few years, even certainly pre-pandemic, we did a lot of our online digital marketing was through Facebook and Instagram advertising, and we've spent like a lot of money over the years because it's so effective. But it kind of got to the point where I felt like, I mean, for other reasons, I'm kind of anti-Facebook. The reason a lot of people are just because I've seen it from the advertisers' side, and I can tell you the amount of information that they mine, and we were just a small player compared to what, I mean, you talk about these campaigns and stuff, the amount of information, the granularity of it, the demographic stuff. I mean, it's scary what we had access to and how we could pinpoint. Now, we looked at it as we were doing it for the good, because we're spreading jazz lessons from jazz legends. We got Christian McBride's chorus, Diane Reeves and Romero. I mean, like we really believe in what we're doing. So we're not using it for evil or nefarious purposes, but that was like a firsthand, for me to be able to see how this could be used. So I think a lot of, like, we've been looking to get away from that, and we've pretty much it's hard to pull yourself away though, because it works so well, because it connects you with people that are interested in what you have. I mean, that's how we spread this thing around the world. But what I've seen over the pandemic, and that's why we're getting involved with sponsoring, podcasts and live performances and stuff, that's where people that are interested in our products and our memberships are hanging out. You know what I mean? Yeah, they're hanging out with Facebook, but they're getting fed up with Facebook too. And plus, people on Facebook, it's just like, oh, look, little Nisi's picture from graduation. Oh, jazz stuff. I mean, it's so random at this point that you're having to interrupt them. Whereas if somebody's, watching Emmett's live stream every Monday and seeing like, wow, okay, it's got Joe Lovano this week. Like, that's an engaged audience that's really interesting to us, because what we're coming to, first of all, we're just supporting something that is dope and that's already really doing something great into the world. But it's also where the same type of people that are highly engaged, because a lot of what we don't see is this huge line between education and entertainment. Like, that's something I've really learned over this last year, is that these, and like the type of folks that would be on, the Emmett's exclusive club. So now I get it. Ridgefield, Connecticut. See, Dan, that's where his exclusive club hangs out. That sounds like the kind of area where they'd be hanging out. See,
they were out in force, man. I was like, who are these?
That's right. But yeah, I mean, like those kind of folks, they're interested in everything. Like, these are the folks that they want to know about the music, but they want to know behind the scenes. They might want to learn how to play, or they might know someone. So there's not as much of a line between, oh, I'm a fan or I'm a student. A lot of folks kind of want to be both, and they want to see all that. And so we're just trying to be at the different places to serve those people and let them know what we have.
And that's huge. That's huge too. I think especially for the next generation coming up, because that's how we learn the music. We were fans as well as students. It wasn't just like a clinical environment. There's a whole culture attached to this music, and when that's on display from the actual practitioners, that makes a world of difference. Like I said, like I saw the McBride videos for Open Studio, and he's like, he's being McBride. He's making jokes in his deep voice. And,
while he's killing it at the same time.
Exactly. That's the type of learning experience that sticks to a student, and they have that saying, those who can't do teach, but there's nothing like seeing the people that can do it well also teach in their own unique way.
Yep. Yeah, we saw it. The way I always looked at this for a while now was like, it's definitely, I mean, I come from, both my parents are musicians and educators, and so I always knew you could teach and you could do it. But a lot of times it's like those that don't have time to teach. That might be the thing, especially as musicians with the lifestyle that we had until this year. And so my pitch to, McBride and to everybody, and it's going to be to you guys very soon, Emmett and Dan, if you're open, is that is that like, this is a way to reach, more people than you would ever have time for. And I think that we're all seeing that in terms of live streaming or doing, online lessons or whatever. this is a way to scale Dan's information. Like, even if you're on the road, different people hit you up, I want to do a lesson. It's like, you want to do it, but then it's like, you're in town, you got sound check, you're going to be tired. And yeah, giving them a video course isn't the same, but it's giving them a bunch of like your foundational things. And then maybe they do something over Skype with you at some point, or gets a, but I mean, there's no way because McBride was always just like, I don't have time to teach. He had a thing for years on his website that was like, he got so many requests. It was just like, unfortunately, we don't, and people thought, oh, he doesn't like to teach or he can't teach. And I knew that wasn't the case. I'm like, he's such a, great guy and so giving and whatever. So I really just pitched it to him as a vehicle to be able to reach all those people at scale.
You guys all bring up amazing points. We do have about 5 minutes left. And Peter, I loved how you mentioned connecting with the audience outside, and Emmett, when you mentioned even Patreon and using other resources outside of just live streaming to kind of connect to your audience. And I wanted to pose this last question before we close out. Now that things are opening up, have you all been thinking less about live stream performances? And I know that Zoom fatigue is real, as you all have mentioned. How do you continue how are you going to continue to develop in the future, whether live stream is in the picture or not, and what you envision?
I'll say that for me, like beyond just the live stream, it's really been the consistent content that's been so valuable. Like we're always looking for like things to post or like things that's like, it's almost sadly not really about quality and completely about quantity and consistency. Consistency is the better term. But one thing that we've been doing, I've been traveling a little bit in this time. We went to Russia in March for about 10 days or something. And so I've been missing some Monday nights. And one thing that we've been doing is trying to record a concert. So I'll like record a show at a gig in Russia, like write that into the contract, say, hire someone to film it, and then send it back to my assistant in the US, have them put it together and screen it 7:30 p.m. Monday at the normal time with all the firepower of like all the cross posts and all the everything. And so like there's like a TV program that's happening whether or not I'm there. And I think that's been something that's really valuable. And we haven't missed one basically since March. We took 1 week off the week of the George Floyd atrocity, just in solidarity. But other than that, we've screened something every single week. And I think like the consistency of that, whether we're like live streaming it or whether it's like pre-recorded and we're airing it like it's a live stream, I think like I'm looking to explore those kinds of things where we can just keep it going without it having to be like like me in the apartment every Monday. And there's some problems with the neighbors and they want us to stop and it's loud. And, so there's a lot of politics to juggle around, but I said I would kind of maybe try to align with Broadway and do it until September. And then, pare it down to maybe 2 times a week or 2 times a month rather. And then like, still have part of that and keep it going. Cause there's many corners of the world that tune in or the country that tune in, that there's not a jazz club with touring acts that come through. And, those people are, you can still reach them. And if the quality is good and the community's there and people are interested in it, they'll still have dinner with us on Mondays and check it out, even if the world's open.
Yeah, I think that that really is spot on in terms of also what our vision for this as things are opening up, and that is kind of a hybrid of live performance that's also available for streaming, so that folks can see this. And so like we need the support of the venues and the Jazz and Lincoln Centers and the institutions, and certainly for us at Open Studio, we see ourselves as one of those to support the artists and the listeners and keeping that connection going. And so as long as everybody realizes this is not a zero-sum game, if there is a performance at, we have a great jazz club here that's like 100 feet from our studio here, Jazz St. Louis, and I know Dan and Emmett have played at, and a wonderful organization, that as people are coming back to watch that, if there's streaming that goes really high quality streaming, that's community based, that's appointment based, where it's like, it means something to come in at this time on a Monday night and see this show because I'm meeting such and such from here in the chat. And I'm also like, what's it going to be like this week? I mean, that plays to the strengths of this music, because we're going to be improvising every time. Like the biggest thing I think I learned from this is like the live makes such a difference. I mean, after doing it for a while, I was like, you know what, let me just come in and record it early and then just play it. Maybe no one will know or care or whatever, but people do. And then like all these people that would tune in Saturday mornings at 3 a.m. in Europe, they're like, I'm trying to stay up for the thing. I'm like, we're not going to take it down from YouTube. You watch it whenever you want, but it really means something for people to be experiencing something together. And I think that's because of just the organic flavor that already exists in this music. The same reason you want to be at Dizzy's when something goes down, because it's like you're experiencing with others, that we've kind of learned a way to create that and recreate that. So I really think that there can be a combination, and, you know, we're exploring some, we actually last weekend had an audience here for the first Friday night and we did a duo concert and Homero Lubombo came in, and the week before we played trio, but we actually weren't able to have an audience because the city of St. Louis hadn't changed their regulations, but we had a audience of everybody was vaccinated in the musicians and in the audience. We had 12 people here. So it was like no masks, and it was great for us, but we also did a really high quality stream at the same time. So for the first time, people could hear the clapping and see the people, and they were almost like actors in the thing. And so I'm hoping that that's what can be done by a number of places. And I'm hoping that venues and stuff don't look at this as a threat, but as an enhancement. I mean, if you're looking at a great quality stream of the Village Vanguard, Joe Lovano playing down there, and it sounds great. I mean, who's going to be like, oh, I can stay at home and watch this for cheaper, I'm never going to go. That's going to make you want to go there. If you're seeing Dizzy's with the beautiful background and a band killing it, that's going to be like, let's book a trip. You might watch it every week for 6 months and be like, let's book a trip for the weekend to New York. And I want to go to that place because it's so cool and everybody's cool that's there and it sounds great. It is a marketing arm of it, but it's also an access thing. So I'm extremely bullish on streaming coming out of this.
Yeah, I'm definitely along the same lines. I mean, and I see this as an opportunity for a true partnership between artist and venue, you know, to really be able to even for fundraisers for clubs or a specific project that a musician is doing. I see all kinds of opportunity there. So I'm definitely not done doing that. I'm going to continue well after the pandemic. And Peter, next time I see you, we're gonna get back on the court, man.
Oh yeah, well, yeah.
I had to throw that in. I had to throw that in.
Yeah. So just so you guys know, I think the last time Dan and I saw each other, we were on a cruise ship playing basketball, and Dan was literally like up above the rim, and I'm like beneath. Well, it worked out good when we were on the same team. That was fun. That worked out good for me.
Well, the interesting thing that I found is that you had more wind than anybody on the court. There's just guys like, you know, 20 years younger, and we're all like,
right.
And Peter's like, what's wrong with you guys?
Yeah, but notice Dan didn't say I had more skill than anyone on the court. That he didn't say. He said I had more. You got to play. Oh, but you know what? Were you there the time? See, we're going to clown on Emmett's bass player Russell. Now, were you there when Russell came?
Yeah. I think I caught a few elbows, man. Russell.
That's how they do it in Jamaica, though.
Man, that was one of the most pitiful displays of basketball, and coming from me. Come on, I mean that was shameful, man. You hire that guy every week to play bass. Well, you're not hiring for, but I'll just tell you all real quick. What happened was we were playing and like we played with Marcus Miller. Marcus is like serious, like he's in shape. You know, he's like 70 years old and can like play, but you know, better than everybody. But we were kind of like we're doing a little bit of recruiting because remember we were playing early in the morning, so. You know, I think we kind of saw Russell. Russell sort of said something like, "What's up? You're all playing ball?" You're like, "Yeah, we're playing." And he was real cocky, like, "Yeah, bet I'm gonna be there." And he came out with the gear and everything, and so we're all trying to get him on our team and stuff. And I think we pulled him in because remember Ruben was there. Man, I throw him the ball. He's like, it's like that Office episode where they thought the guy, you know, he's like double dribbling, elbows, you know, banging. It was. Big shout out to Russell.
Island basketball.
That's some island basketball, buddy. Whoa.
And then we all made fun of him. And then remember he was like, well, man, I played soccer growing up in Jamaica. We didn't mess with it. I was like, I can tell.
Well, it looks like we're going to have to live stream one of these basketball games since y'all got us the inside scoop now. Shoot.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. And the last Jazz Cruise, we did the 3-on-3. I would actually love to see that. I love because we had some fierce competition.
Yeah. That was
well, perfect example of how live streams can eventually bring us all together in real life. Well, with all that said, thank you, everyone. That's all the time that we have for today. Unfortunately, we didn't have any time for question and answers for today, but we have more sessions for y'all for you to join. But thank you, everyone, for being here. And I'll kick it back to Domingo.
Well, thank you all for a great panel. This is amazing, and what a great time. So we want to thank everybody that was watching. Thank you for tuning in, for joining us for Jazz Congress 2021. So this is all the time that we have. I hope you all have a wonderful spring and summer, and that you join us the next time. You all take care, and we'll see you soon.